What's up, Broncos, and welcome back to the second episode of the Poly Podcast, the official podcast of the Poly Post. This is a weekly podcast for students by students where we bring you all the news from the latest issue of our student-ran paper, the Poly Post. I am your co-host, Nick Talamante.
And I am your other co-host, Andy Foreman.
Andy, what's good? What's new with you, bro?
Not much. I just want to thank everyone who has given us positive feedback and who listened to the first episode and supporting us and, like I said, giving us positive feedback because it's that feedback that makes those creative juices flow, man.
Yeah, honestly, I was really shocked by the response that we gotten so far. People seem to dig it. Mm-hmm. And, one thing that is new that the audience might have noticed is we have intro music.
Yeah. That's we're upgrading every episode, man.
Exactly, just getting better and better. And if you really dig that track that we used for the intro, that is a song filmed by Ray, which is actually a local band from CPP students here on campus.
Awesome. Like we said, this is a show by students for students. So the more people we can get involved, the better. Exactly.
And we might touch on filmed by Ray a little bit more near the end of the episode. But if you liked what you heard so far, we're going to leave the link in the description. Just kind of, shouting them out and where you can listen to all their great music. And yeah.
You want to move into the next one?
Absolutely.
The first story?
Absolutely. So one thing that I want to touch on for my highlights of the week for this paper, and by the way, this is going to be our second episode, and we're going to be covering Poly Post issue number 21. So if you guys want to pick up a copy of the paper and check out all the stories that we're talking about in this week's episode, feel free to find one on campus or go to our website at thepolypost.com. So the thing that I wanted to touch on, the first one is the daily struggle of the I-10 freeway. That's an opinion piece by Jeanette Diaz, one of our staff writers here. And she really nails it on the head as someone who has to frequently use the 10 as a commuter. I hate it. I hate it, man. It's the worst freeway.
I know. The thing about it is there's construction. Construction has been going on at this school ever since I've been going to this school, and nothing's gotten better. It's only gotten worse.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't the school's fault, by the way. I take it it's the state of California's fault.
Or the city of Pomona, or somebody has to pay.
Yeah, some form of government. We demand retribution. Because I've been going to this school since 2016, and it hasn't gotten any better. It's gotten worse.
Exactly. You know what? This is what I'm going to stake my 2020 vote on. All right, well, which candidate, which local official is going to improve the damn freeways?
Yeah, I honestly don't care about any political stance or opinion besides that one, because this is the only one that matters to me.
This is the hill I'm going to die on.
Yes, yeah.
Okay?
This is insane how hard it is to get to campus. You know what? I was driving here with my mom the other day, and she's like a pretty nice lady. But
Shout out to Mama Foreman.
Yeah, exactly. And she literally, she was looking at the construction and she says, could they make it any harder to get to Cal Poly? It's we're supposed to go here to get an education, but the hardest part of our day is just navigating through the multiple construction zones that are around this school. It's insane.
It's like, do you not want my money?
They do.
Do you not want my money? Because I'll keep it. I'll keep my money.
Yeah.
Trust me. You know what? I don't think I need this degree anymore.
If there's one thing that you can always bet on with Cal Poly, they want your money. So
True. But I don't know who to talk to because I don't even live in this county. So I'm just going to write an angry letter to whoever the mayor of Pomona is and just be like, hey, man, I need you to fix this or we got problems.
Exactly, yeah. We need at least one freeway off-ramp open so that we can get here. Is that too much to ask?
Nothing really adds salt to the wound of trying to find parking and getting here on time than just being stuck in that long ass line right before you get on what is it, Kellogg?
Yeah, I believe so.
On the exit. Yeah. There's just that pile that's formed whenever people get stopped up there. It's the worst.
Yeah, now I have to come down Temple, which takes which is an even longer route. It's just a huge pain in the ass all around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And moving on, Andy, what is your highlight?
My highlight is a story written by our very own staff writer, Kelsey Hartley. She wrote about how Disneyland tickets have skyrocketed.
Too damn high.
She had a very clever headline. Disneyland ticket prices skyrocket to infinity and beyond. Oh, ho, ho, ho. So clever.
I liked it. I thought it was
No, I do love
funny.
it. Yeah, I do love it.
I thought it was a good headline.
Yeah, it's a great headline. But I just have something to say about the Disneyland ticket prices because it is insane how much these cost. People want to talk about Big Pharma. I want to talk about Big Disney. Okay? Do you know what I mean? I want to know what Bernie Sanders is going to do for the Disneyland tickets. And I just want to say this. Like, I get people like Disneyland. I get they have good Galaxy's Edge. I get they have Marvel rides coming. But I'm just going to say this. If you have a Disneyland pass, I don't want to hear you talk about how you have money troubles. Because there's so many people, broke college student, and then on their Instagram, they've got the Mickey ears, and they've got the big pretzel churro and of the Mickey Mouse, and they've got a giant, their face is painted, and they've got a giant icy and everything. And they're like, broke college student. I'm like, bullshit. Like... Do you know how much a Disneyland pass costs? And do you know how much you pay every time you go to Disneyland? Like, just for the food and for the stupid souvenirs that you obviously are going to get? Nothing against Disneyland. I'm just saying, if you get a Disneyland pass and you're like, oh, I just don't have money for rent this month, you're not allowed to complain. Okay?
Well, see, Andy, my friend, what you fail to understand is that a Disney pass is an essential, much like water, food, shelter. Disney Pass is right up there. In fact, I'd say it's probably the most important thing. So maybe chill out a little bit.
Sorry, I wish I lived in that world, my friend. But I guess I am slightly hypocritical because I spend all of my money on convention tickets. So,
okay, okay.
I totally get it. I'm just saying, Disneyland is the most expensive place on the planet, and it's only getting more expensive. So
I'm weak when you said Big Disney because I'm like, Disney is unironically a monopoly. This is unironically like a political position that I take, that Disney is too damn big and it needs to be like regulated super hard.
Oh yeah, especially in the overall entertainment industry. Like once they absorbed Fox, I'm like, oh. Like,
now there's rumors that they might buy out like DC Comics and
those are pretty unfounded rumors.
Hey,
so far.
Look, man, I don't put it past the mouse, okay?
Yeah, I do consume a lot of the products that they put out. So like I said, I'm pretty hypocritical on this point. But, because I'm a Star Wars guy, I'm a Marvel guy, I'm always going to read and watch what they put out. But at the same time, like, maybe give us some differing voices and some differing tones, Like, that's why I'm so sad that, like, this year we're getting the last of the Fox X-Men movies, the New Mutants. And I'm like, well... say goodbye to different genres in the Marvel Comics movies.
I for one welcome our mouse overlord and give me money, Disney. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. As someone that wants to work in the entertainment industry, I should probably shut up on this point.
Yeah, my private stance is that Disney is like the actual worst and needs to be regulated. But like my public stance is like, give me all the money. Let me be in Avengers. I don't care if I'm just an extra. I get killed. It's all good.
Yeah, at this point, they're probably going to own everything that I want to work for anyway.
Exactly. So can't wait for this show to be on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
But moving on, Andy, to our first main story.
Let's do this.
And this is going to be ASI Approved Student Organization Budget Request Early. This is going to be by our staff writer, Nicholas Hernandez. Another Nick. Shout out to other Nick.
What up, Nick?
And Nick writes, the Associate Students Incorporated ASI Board of Directors voted to unanimously approve mid-year budget requests from multiple student organizations on February 12th, despite the contention of the timing of the vote. Originally, the board was scheduled to listen to and discuss the financial requests that student organizations had previously presented to the ASI Finance Committee and vote on the request at the following board meeting. However, one organization, Lambda Theta Phi, urged the board to vote as soon as possible. Collins College of Hospitality Manager Senator Lucy Yu introduced a motion to suspend traditional procedure and instead vote on the request within the same meeting, which sparked debate as to whether to vote on the request during the meeting or the next. ASI Treasurer Noah Tonys clarified the organization requesting funding for events occurring prior to March 5th would have to be reimbursed for their expenses rather than being provided a check to cover those costs. ASI Attorney General Mashan Singh, a third-year environmental biology student, said, if we can save students the headache of having to front the money, which I've personally gone through, it's not a fun process. If we can save a few of the clubs from going through that process, I would personally recommend that. Yu, a third-year hospitality manager student, explained that the rationale for her motion was, my thought process was doing what's best for our students, Yu said. Quote, why don't we approve this now? Why are we making them wait? Why are we making us wait? Let's make their lives easier, and if that means we have to sit here a little bit longer, so be it. However, some members, such as College of Letters, Arts, and Social Sciences Senator Alexis Ramirez, had reservations about moving forward on that same day. She says, at the end of the day, we all want student clubs to get their money, but we had 7 presentations. We had never done that before, Ramirez said. There were a lot of factors, data, and presentations that we heard, so it was really difficult to have all the details for such a club. And that's why we usually spend 2 weeks just trying to analyze if that money that's being asked for is being properly spent, because it's student fees, so we want to make sure it's being used properly. Ramirez also stated that she had concerns for setting the precedent of suspending the usual procedures, even, quote, even when it's not necessary. Use motion to vote on the budget request passed with a vote of 7-4-0, counting votes in favor, against, and abstaining respectively. Concerning the timing of the vote, ASI Vice President Rachel Hunter stated, quote, at the end of the day, if the board felt comfortable enough to go through with it, they should vote on it, and they did. The funding to the student organizations within the exception of Psi Chi, a psychology honor society that did not present its request to the board, was approved unanimously with a decision of 11-0 vote. The money provided to these organizations will be provided by the new Programs and Augmentations Reserve, which, according to the ASI website, is designed to support registered student clubs and organizations. As part of Yu's initial motion, the board also voted on whether to approve Natalie Kassar to fill the vacancy in the position of Officer of Civic Engagement. Samantha Fidel, the ASI Secretary of External Affairs and previous Officer of Civic Engagement, recommended Kassar for the position. The board unanimously approved Kassar for the position with a unanimous vote of 11-0. ASI's next board of directors meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 27th. So, any thoughts on that?
I think it's kind of interesting that we're kind of moving into new ways, because this is such a big year politically, both on a national level and now on a Cal Poly level. I find it interesting that we're kind of moving out of normal procedures. I think it's just kind of indicative of how fed up people are with like bureaucracy as a whole at this point.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't really know how I feel about this. I mean, I can kind of understand where both sides are coming from. I mean, on one hand, it is nice to be like expedient and just getting, the votes approved that right then and there. Yeah. But I also understand that it's probably a little bit easier on them if they have some time to like kind of mull things over and like look at like all the data and the sheets, because it sounds like with these presentations, they just kind of had everything thrown at them and then they had to decide like on the fly versus having some time to kind of like really think about like what motion to approve. But I don't know. For me, I think my main concern personally is what the clubs feel about it. It's cool if the actual ASI members have their own individual thoughts and reasoning. Like, that's all fine and dandy. But at the end of the day, I think the most important thing and the perspective we should consider the most is probably what the student clubs, the actual organizations that are asking for their budgets to be approved, what they think. And if they're cool with this new way, then, so be it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I believe that the clubs should probably have a bigger say in what's going on in terms of how they vote on all this stuff, because at the end they're the ones that are being directly affected by it.
I actually completely agree with that.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting and probably for the better. And this is just my kind of like, political bias here, but I think having, just like he said, the people that are actually affected by it, like having representatives from students, like student club and organizations on the board, being able to vote on this motion, I think that would be a lot better. I mean, the more democratic a process can be, in my opinion, the less bureaucratic and like insulated from the people affected, I think the better. In my opinion, I think that's a good thing. So I think you're 100% right.
Yeah, like I said, I think it's interesting how frustrated with bureaucracy people are at this point, that they're just willing to shake up how everything's working. I think it's kind of, because this is coming from a fourth-year student who just recently found out he's going to be here for 2 more years. So if you need someone who is frustrated with the school, talk to me.
Oh, yeah. You know what? And speaking of frustrations and shaking things up and the political process, Andy, why don't we cover our second story that we want to jump into?
For sure. Our second story is actually an opinion piece by this podcast's very own Nicholas Talamante.
Oh, God.
It's titled "You Can't Vote for Them All," which I think is pretty grabbing title.
Glad you think so.
Yeah, it was one of the first ones that I gravitated towards when I started reading this issue. I thought it was really, really interesting the way you went over a lot of this.
I appreciate that, man. But you know what? This is not about me. And we're not going to make this a self-indulgent segment. But this is, I think, a good jumping off point to talk about just politics in general, because it's a very political, year, given that we have a presidential race, but it's also like upcoming a very political week for us, both on the national and the local here at Cal Poly level, because we have Super Tuesday coming up next Tuesday, March 3rd, and then we have our ASI elections, which I believe are coming up on March 9th. So before we jump into that, let's kind of start off with general thoughts on the president. Let's focus on the presidential level right now.
For sure.
Let me get your thoughts, Andy. How do you feel about this presidential cycle? What's new?
Well, I think just before we jump into this, because this is part of that feedback we were asking for, we should say a disclaimer that these views are ours and ours alone.
Absolutely.
They don't represent the comm department, Cal Poly in general, or really even anybody else involved with the Poly Post or the Poly Post as an organization. This is purely two students' unfiltered views. So
exactly. You know what? Thank you for that disclaimer. Just so we can get the legal stuff out the way. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are entirely our own and do not reflect the views of the Comm Department, the Poly Post, Cal Poly Pomona faculty, staff, or students. These are, again, like as Andy said, our own individual opinions.
All right, now let's jump into this.
Awesome. Let's just start ripping on everybody.
Well, I would like to say it's nice that you gave me a pretty advanced heads up that Super Tuesday is coming up, because I know that just means my dad is going to be watching TV all day, yelling at the TV. So I'm glad that I can that I have enough time to come up with something to do and not be at home that day.
Well, you know what you could do? You should register and vote. California has same-day registration, so you should vote.
Yes, everyone get out there and vote. It doesn't matter who you vote for, just as long as you do it, because we're very lucky to live in a country where we can. I know they said that again and again and again during the 2016 election, and every time this comes around, but it does bear repeating. Vote because you can.
Exactly. Get out there and vote. Unless it's for Mike Bloomberg, in which case, stay home. Who are you, you psychopaths? Who's unironically voting for Michael Bloomberg? You know, if you are voting for Michael Bloomberg, I hope you're getting paid. I hope you're getting your money, pimp, because if you're doing this for free, you deserve to be on a list. The worst. I wish a curse on you.
I mean, after that debate performance, is there anybody that's voting for Michael Bloomberg? I'm not entirely sure.
You want to talk about the debates?
I'm okay with talking about the debates. Let's go for it.
Let's start off with the Nevada caucus. That's actually, the Nevada debate. That's the one I wrote my opinion piece on.
Sure.
I thought it was great. Honestly, I say in the piece, it was a bloodbath. The knives are out for everybody.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, because they all want it.
Oh, yeah.
It's getting down to the wire where they're all going. Because did you hear about how Pete Buttigieg is getting some kind of pushback now because he's imitating Obama?
Oh my dude.
Yeah.
Hearing his Obama impressions are so weird. He's like a stalker roommate. He's just trying to copy Obama's voice. It's so weird.
I can't tell if he's running to be president or auditioning for SNL with that impression. Because
God, I hope not.
It's pretty. You know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the 2016 elections when remember Donald Trump was just surging in the polls, and then people Jeb and Chris Christie started imitating his kind of brash nature.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
they were just starting to insult people because they're well, this must just be what people like. You know what this really reminds me of? Because I'm a huge movie guy. It reminds me of all the dumb knockoffs that come from popular movies that people think people think that weird little details of movies are what made them popular. So then you see those details start to appear in other movies. So it's sort of this election reminds me of when Transformers was popular. So they started making Battleship. They're oh, people like metal flying into other metal. So we'll just do that over and over and over again. That's kind of what it reminds me of because it's just them copying each other of what's surging in the polls. And an imitation is never as popular as the original.
Yeah, and I think in the case of Pete Buttigieg, again, this is just my personal opinion. I think he's one of the most vacuous people. If there was anybody who was such a blank slate to hope to have whatever you think imprinted on him because he has no actual substance in him, it's Pete Buttigieg. I mean, his Obama thing is ridiculous. He's just coming out, he's folks, let me tell you. Me, Pete Buttigieg, I'm definitely a black man. I definitely deserve black support.
That's actually not a bad impression. I'm not.
Thank you.
It's better than Pete Buttigieg.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, Pete Buttigieg is kind of He's kind of like the Michael Myers mask from Halloween.
Oh, yeah.
The just the pure white mask. I've heard
Yes.
people say the reason it's so scary is because it's blank and you kind of imprint your own fears on it. that seems pretty descriptive of Pete Buttigieg's candidacy.
Oh yeah, he Mayo Pete. He's pretty bland. You don't really taste anything. So I think that's
Mayo Pete.
I think that's pretty an apt description of him.
That's pretty good.
But kind of moving on to the debate in general, like I said,
Oh, yeah.
it was a bloodbath. Everybody was
yeah.
coming for each other. Everyone was either shitting on Michael Bloomberg, or rightfully so, or they were like coming for each other. Like it was so crazy, like seeing them talk about how well, my good friend on stage, and then immediately just stab him. Not even in the back, just stab him in the face.
Yeah, my good friend here is a complete idiot. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Having said that, they're a moron.
Exactly, and here's why I'm better. And you know what? Like I said in the piece, I thought this was a good debate. This is how debates should have been. I cannot stand this whole notion of civility in a primary. I'm like, look, ladies and gentlemen, we are voting to have one of these people become the nominee, go against Donald Trump, and potentially become the most powerful person on earth. You think we're going to be just playing nice? You think these people should be just keeping the gloves on? No, it's ridiculous. It's a primary. People should be vetted. I want candidates to like scream at each other to let me know like why they're right and their others are wrong.
I'd just like to point out that Joe Biden heard you say take the gloves off, and he actually thinks that there's going to be a fist fight for the next.
Joe Biden,
next.
Joe Biden has been ready to throw down for so long.
Yeah, and that is not an endorsement of Joe Biden either, but
not by any means.
Yeah, that's not an endorsement of him at all. But I just want to say that like he's one of those guys that would hear that and he would just go, "Oh, so we are fist fighting in the next one."
I mean, he would be like, you know what, Jack?
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you something about the ones and the twos. Okay, back in my day, we used to scrap down on the corner. That's what Joe Biden's thinking.
That's a pretty good impression of him too.
Thank you.
You've clearly been like studying these candidates.
I've been looking in the mirror every night doing these voices.
Yeah, I think it reminds me of that SNL bit where Woody Harrelson was imitating Joe Biden, and he says, I'm like plastic straws. I've been around forever. I've always worked, but for some reason you're all mad at me now. That kind of reminds me of that. But to me, Joe Biden, I'm not like an ardent hater of Joe Biden, but I'm also definitely not like a supporter of Joe Biden.
No.
And he just seems like he seems to be running for president the way that I went to college, where I'm just like, well, I guess I have to do this now. You know what I mean? Like,
I just feel bad. I mean, like and we'll get into the other debate, but like, yeah, Joe is he's fired up, but he's like, his brain is also melting live on TV. So he's like directing that anger in the weirdest place. He's like looking at the opposite camera. Like the camera's not even on him. He's like staring off in the audience. He's like, let me tell you something, Buster.
He's like a firework that you ever see those videos of like the hillbillies that light off the fireworks and then like it falls over and gets shot into their car or something? It kind of reminds me of that, where he's like a firework, but it's just getting shot into the completely different direction.
Yeah, he's like very like passionate and angry, but he's not directing it at like anybody like in particular.
I will say this, on a purely nihilistic level, I would love to see Joe Biden and Donald Trump debate, because it would just be two incoherent trains of thought. And it would be hilarious to see like not only fact checkers, but also people that have to transcribe these things, and the people that are moderating the debates have to deal with these two guys just going on about nothing, like just this nonsense that they're going on. Like Donald Trump would be going on about like I was there when stuffed crust pizza was invented and it's never topped that. And then like Joe Biden would be like, well, I met this guy named Corn Pop, and like didn't he literally talk about a guy he knew named Corn Pop?
He did.
Yeah, you could almost hear his campaign managers just collectively like slapping their heads like, oh my God. Because the thing is this should not be that difficult a campaign to win. It's literally a campaign against Donald Trump.
Well, I mean, you'd be surprised. I mean, Hillary Clinton still lost, and we're living in the worst timeline, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, it's incredible how like they just and this is a sports metaphor from someone who's collectively watched maybe like 10 minutes of sports in their entire life, but they just keep fumbling the ball.
Oh yeah,
it's incredible.
Absolute fumbles,
like,
not secure in the bag whatsoever. But yeah, just kind of overall, like the debate. I thought the Nevada debate, awesome. It was a bloodbath. It was aggressive. All the candidates came for each other, and the most important thing, they were shitting on Mike Bloomberg.
Yeah, that is funny.
If there's anybody in this race I hate the most, like it's Mike Bloomberg.
Well, it's a good reminder that, like, people always say, like, money can't buy happiness.
It
Like,
can damn sure buy elections.
well, I'm just saying, like, $500 million can't buy you, like, a winning debate performance either. Because,
No,
like,
it can't. He's probably so used to his, like, staffers and underlings just telling him, like, yes, sir, that he probably went to this debate thinking, like, oh, I'm great. I'm going to do fantastic. And then, just getting just absolutely bitch slapped.
well, he says, like, a lot of stuff that's, like, Trump adjacent or a lot closer to Trump than I'm pretty sure the Democratic base would like. But then he always adds at the end, oh, but I hate Donald Trump. You know what I mean?
Even though he, like, there's actual video and footage of him and Donald Trump, like, buddying it up. And also, fun fact, Mike Bloomberg there's photos of him with Ghislaine Maxwell, who was Jeffrey Epstein's, like, groomer / lover, and also Harvey Weinstein. So, just so you know.
I mean, all of these people know each other. There's this terrifying, like, Lovecraftian, like, sort of network of people that are all at the top that, like, us as just sort of normal people don't even know about. Like, if anybody wants a show that, like, explores this in an interesting way, watch True Detective season 1 with Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey, because it's exactly about, like, all of this stuff that's just under the surface. The thing is all these people, Donald Trump buddied it up with Hillary Clinton.
Yes.
They all knew all of these people. Mike Bloomberg hung out with Donald Trump. They're all, like, living on a different planet than we are.
Yeah, they're all on Little St. James Island with Jeffrey Epstein eating babies.
Well, I'm just saying, it doesn't surprise me that, like, rich man is friends with another rich man. I'm like, well,
yeah,
what do you think?
Colored me shocked.
Yeah, what do you think? They're hanging out at the bar with us?
Exactly.
Like,
and what really pissed me off about Michael Bloomberg, though, is that he donated money to the DNC, and they changed the rules to allow him to be on the debate stage. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, going back, this from the New York Times, they cover this back on January 31st. But the DNC announced Friday, at the time, that in order to participate in the debate set for February 19th in Las Vegas, a candidate must win at least a single delegate in either the Iowa caucus or the New Hampshire primary, or meet polling requirements. It had eliminated the requirement that candidates must receive donations from hundreds of thousands of individuals. This is very important. Michael Bloomberg, a multi-billionaire, is running a self-funded campaign and is not soliciting donations. To meet the latest polling threshold, candidates must earn 10 percentage points in 4 qualifying national polls, or 12 percentage points in 2 polls taken in Nevada or South Carolina by the qualifying pollsters. Michael Bloomberg isn't even on the ballot in the first 4 states. Yet he was able to flood the airways with millions and millions of dollars in ads, so that way people are like, oh, I know who Mike Bloomberg is now. And they told that to pollsters, and it edged him in just enough to get into the debates. But this is insane. This is what drives me insane. This billionaire, not even on the first 4 states in this election, comes in, donates a bunch of money to the Democratic National Convention, and then they change the rules to where instead of all the candidates having to have, hundreds of different individual donations, that way they can kind of show that, okay, there's somewhat of a broad or grassroots, movement coming in. Mike Bloomberg just comes in, floods it with all of his own money. He's not accountable to anybody. I like that he tries to, coyly go up there and be like, I have no special interest. It's like, you are the special interest. What do you mean? You're not accountable to anybody.
Your ego is your special interest.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So the fact that he was able to give the DNC a bribe and have them change the rules, which edged out all the other, like, candidates, especially candidates of color, not that they were polling great, but the fact that they had to be held to these standards, and then Mike Bloomberg doesn't, and he's not even on the first 4 states, like, to actually be able to vote for, ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, I used the bathroom before we started this, and the Mike Bloomberg logo was on the paper towels. So God, I think his reach is pretty far.
I hate Mike Bloomberg. To me, it's just ridiculous. Why would you replace one racist and sexist billionaire with another racist and sexist billionaire? And let me say this. People don't realize that Michael Bloomberg was a Republican up until, like, I think 2013. I don't think people realize, like, the police state that he created in New York with stop and frisk policies and monitoring Muslims. Like, it's completely ridiculous. And how he just completely undercut or just straight up busted unions and labor in New York City. It's ridiculous. I cannot stand Mike Bloomberg. The fact that he is able to just come in and try to essentially buy this election, it infuriates me to no end. So I hate Michael Bloomberg, if you couldn't guess. from that
No,
little
I couldn't
tirade.
tell, but I'm glad you clarified
Oh,
that.
thank you. Well, I just wanted to be a little subtle about it.
Okay.
But then the next debate after that, which was the, I think, CBS debate, was the one we just had this week. This was the South Carolina debate. This one, absolute shit show.
Really?
The absolute worst. People were, instead of being like aggressive like Nevada and people were getting points in, you're like, you speak, get a couple jabs in, move on. You speak, respond, throw a few back. It was a hostile, but it was a good exchange. Whereas South Carolina was just people at one point just all talking over each other. It was completely disorganized, chaotic, and ridiculous. There was very little like substance discussed in it because people just kept talking over each other. So yeah, that was just the debates. I know we kind of got off on a tear there, but what are your like just kind of overall thoughts about the election so far before we move on to the ASI elections?
Do you want the Democratic elections or just the election 2020 as a whole?
Both. Like if you don't have to give your full thoughts on air if you don't want to, but if you want to just say like who's catching your eye, whose policies you like, or like just how the general state of the election is going in your opinion, how you think it's going to play out.
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Bernie's probably going to get the nomination. I think that's pretty clear. I would say maybe Elizabeth Warren would be the second. I don't know the actual. I don't know the actual polls, like who's polling percentage-wise, but I'm just saying, like in terms of who seems to be getting the most traction from people I've talked to, seems to be both Bernie and Warren. And I think that's probably because whether you like them or not, they appear to be the most sincere out of all the candidates. I don't know about you, but in this last debate, I was kind of distracted by Pete Buttigieg practicing his Barack Obama impression.
Oh, yeah.
It was a little... It took me out of it a little bit.
Yeah.
I would have to see who actually gets the nomination before I were to make any sort of prediction for the general election. But I think the Democrats are at kind of a turning point right now. This could either go very right or very wrong for them, and they really, really need to get behind the candidate that can win.
I completely agree. So just a little correction. So the people that are polling, at least as of today, that are polling well are Bernie Sanders, who is the clear front runner at this moment. Joe Biden.
He's second?
He's second, roughly, in terms of the polls. And then Mike Bloomberg. Much to my like annoyance, Mike Bloomberg is there, but that's what happens when you flood the airwaves with millions of dollars in ads.
Yeah.
Especially lying ones. Like he has one where it's framed where Obama's like endorsing him, even though Obama hasn't endorsed him. It's ridiculous. But I completely agree with you. I think this is a turning point, a crossroads, if you will, of the Democratic Party, and they can go into very different directions, or not so much very different. One of them is very different. The other way might just go back to business as usual. But for me personally, I think it's very clear Bernie Sanders is the front runner. He is 3 for 3, first 3 states under my belt. And even though I'm supporting Bernie, I think it's undeniable right now the momentum that he's building. I think he's one of the few candidates that actually has a broad coalition going into this. Elizabeth Warren has a pretty good coalition, and then Joe Biden has been plummeting over the last couple of months, but he's holding strong in South Carolina. South Carolina is going to be in Super Tuesday in general is going to be a big, I think, deciding factor in how this primary goes. Super Tuesday is 14 states. That's a lot of delegates to clean up. And then Joe Biden's holding strong in South Carolina. Sanders is within striking distance of him, but that's his fireball. That's what Joe's putting all the money on South Carolina and the black vote, which still at this point largely supporting him, but again, Sanders is creeping up. So it's going to be really interesting to see how the Saturday, the South Carolina primary goes.
Yeah, we'll probably have a lot more to talk about the next episode we record after Super Tuesday. There's going to be a lot to cover.
It's a lot going into it. So, and moving on. So that was the national election.
Yeah.
But let's bring things a little closer to home, Andy. Let's reel it on in.
Yeah, let's.
Because there's an even more important election coming up, and that's the ASI election. So for students that want to get to know the other students that are running to be the ASI student leaders, there are going to be a couple events coming up this week for them to check out, just to try to get to know the people that are running, see who deserves their vote, and also get some free food. It's also some of these events are also going to be hosted on 97.1 AMP radio. So the first event is going to be a meet and greet. This is going to be on Thursday, February 27th, and it's from noon to 1 p.m. at University Park. I believe that just passed. That was today. Then there's going to be the President and VP debate Tuesday, March 3rd, Super Tuesday, from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at the BSC Ursa Major C, Building 35. Then there's going to be the Senator Forum. This is going to be on Thursday, March 5th. From noon to 1 at University Park. And then the results announcement party held on Thursday, March 12th, 2020, from noon to 1 at University Park. Voting for the ASI elections begins Monday, March 9th at 7 a.m. and will close Thursday, March 12th at 7 a.m. via My Bar. And yeah, so basically that's what's going on. ASI elections are coming up. Be sure to vote in those. Those are important to put fellow students up there to be your representatives. And then next week, just to give you guys a quick little preview, we actually are going to have a guest on from ASI to give their thoughts on the election and how they feel like things are going and other ways that students can get involved. So be on the lookout for that. That should be very exciting. And yeah.
Yeah, make sure you vote. Like I said, the smaller the election, the more impact it has on you.
Exactly. This is very, very local. This directly affects you.
Yeah, so definitely vote in it. Be as informed as you can. And try not to get too big of a headache from all the politics that are going on, both local and national, on Tuesday.
I agree.
It's going to be brutal.
Last but not least, I think it's time for some confessions.
Oh, I have a few here. I have a few good ones here.
Let's hear it.
These were some that I just picked out today. So this is from, just as a little reminder for everyone, this is from the Instagram account called CPP Confessions, where our fellow Broncos can anonymously spill their hottest and most spicy secrets.
The spiciest takes.
Yes, the spiciest takes. So here's a pretty good one. It says, yo, be careful of the food you heat up in microwaves. I was in the AG building this morning and someone heated up something that literally smelled like vomit. At first, my boyfriend and I thought we could handle the smell, but we ended up walking out of the building because we felt like throwing up.
Oh, God.
I want to know what that food was.
Right? Oh, my gosh.
You know, I know you're going to probably say like, oh, was it Subway?
I wouldn't put it past them.
I know you have a vendetta against Subway.
Wouldn't put it past them.
I will say this. Subway just got a very nice remodel. In the BSC.
It looks pretty nice.
Yeah, it does look pretty nice.
I like the aesthetic.
Yeah, they got a very nice remodel. But yes, I have related to this where people walk by and you're like, what in the hell are you? Yeah, what in the hell are you eating? But moving on to another food-related confession.
Now I'm getting hungry.
Yeah. It says, hey, I want to confess that I just saw someone at the marketplace literally take the noodle cup out of the cardboard cover and just walk out without paying.
Wait, what?
We got some thievery on campus, everyone.
Who's swiping noodles?
It literally here on the description from CPP Confession, they said, are you so broke that you can't even afford 99-cent noodles?
I was about to say the same thing. I was like, damn, dog, you struggling.
It reminds me of Creed from The Office, where he's like, I just like stealing things. Like, at this point, it just must be a challenge to the person.
Just a kleptomaniac.
Yeah, exactly. It must just be a challenge. But seriously, okay, like, if you're stealing noodles, I don't know what to tell you.
He's like, I'm not even hungry. I just like the thrill of the chase.
Yeah. And trust me, no one's going to chase you for 99-cent noodles.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow, can you imagine getting, like, arrested for noodles?
Oh my God! It's like those McDonald's signs that say like we prosecute people who put Sprite in the water cups.
Oh, sure you do.
Yeah,
sure you do. You know what? I like to live on the edge.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do it anyway.
And here's one more that I found funny. I'm tired of trying to concentrate on my work and losing focus because of weirdos who can't chew with their mouth closed, especially with chips. Bro was eating Takis on the 4th floor quiet area, and you could hear him down the hall.
Facts. I hate people that just be smacking their gums.
Yeah, I don't understand how, like, especially in the quiet area, it's literally for people who have, like, tests coming up to, like, study without any problems. If you want to be, like, eating food and, like, having all this messy, like, loud activity going on, there's literally multiple other floors of the library that you could go to. I just love the fact that it was, like, it was so loud that they could tell it was Takis.
That's a fair
Like
point.
talkies have a specific sound.
Like some dude's just like, judging by the way that the crunch here.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they could probably hear them like breathing because it was so spicy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But then again, the spiciest thing in my diet is milk, so I'm probably not. I'm probably not the best one to judge.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Talkies are spicy to me. I don't know on the actual spice scale.
Spiciest thing is milk.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Well, those are our CPP confessions for this week.
That was a hell of a confession from you.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically that'll do it for this week, Broncos. Again, we want to go ahead and shout out the intro, and as you're soon going to hear, the outro music. This is by a band of actual CPP students. They go by Film by Ray. They're super dope. You can check out their link for their Spotify in the description down below. Be sure to give them some love and check them out. And as always, if you guys want us to cover certain topics or any kind of questions you want us to go over, feel free to go ahead and leave them down in the description for the YouTube, or you can go ahead and send them as a DM to our Instagram page at the Polypost, just so we can go over various things that you guys want to hear. And yeah, be on the lookout for next week's episode. And Andy, anything else you want to add?
Yeah, just make sure you support Film by Ray. Always support the artistic endeavors of your fellow Broncos. It's a community. You want to make sure everyone is getting the support they deserve. Thank you guys for your feedback for the first episode. And as always, we welcome it. Let us know anything you want us to cover or talk about. And we will see you guys next time.
As always, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Polypod. And we will catch you guys next week.
Have a good one, guys. We'll talk to you next time.
Later, Broncos.